Don in London, hello. December the 15th, my video is all about recovery from addiction to a substance or a behaviour, or both substances and behaviour. Addiction, well, we can be addicted to anything. It's beyond moderation, it's beyond control, it's beyond any fathomable thinking process to keep on doing something which is insane, self-harm. My addictive substance, primary one, alcohol. My behaviour could be anything obsessive around people, places, things, collecting, trying to be right myself so that the rest of the world would accept me for who I was. And I was a very trying person, I guess, trying so hard to be right, always trying to be right for the next right thing, looking for the answer rather than finding the answer in the here and now, today. So striving to be perfect. It wasn't actually a concept I had, but probably that's what I was trying to do, trying to be perfect and never so. So I've joined Earth again, the planet, just being a human being, one day at a time, making progress and learning that life is in the journey and not the destination, because we all know what the destination will be, and to make the most of the journey of living. And I do this these days, hopefully today, sober. So I don't drink anymore, that's alcohol, and I try not to be obsessive around my behaviour, but I still get obsessive about some things, a desire to have something which would be useful to me. More than that, it turns out that often when I think it's going to be useful, once I've got it, I don't use it. Now, how odd is that? Well, it's not so unusual in a consumer-driven society. So I'm not blaming society, but there's a part of me which feels it needs something and then doesn't need it at all. Maybe that's where the problem started, but let's roll it back to just dealing with recovery today. So in recovery, one day at a time, what helped me get to recovery were family, friends, society, professionals, medical, and then a fellowship, and that fellowship is Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm not a great joiner of anything, really. I wasn't a great joiner of anything unless I saw merit in it, and I couldn't stand the idea of joining a fellowship which was all about taking away something which I had come to rely on completely, and that was alcohol, and the belief that it was my best friend. It served me in all respects, in all circumstances. That was to be happy, to be sad, to be elated, to be able to get out of it, to seek oblivion when life was just so thinking difficult, and also to take the edge off what was going on. And it took the edge off me completely in the end, and I couldn't stop. And the litany of things that went wrong in the end is complete, as it needs to be, to hit a rock bottom. And whatever the depth that is for me or anyone else, it's as bad as it need get to say to ourselves, if I keep on doing this, it's going to kill me. But then I keep on doing this, and it is killing me, and I don't know how to deal with it. And that's where I got to. I cannot do it on my own, and that's when the Fellowship of AA sort of kicked in. So what is Alcoholics Anonymous? Well, before I start, I don't speak for it, never can, never will, because it's full of unique, authentic people who speak for themselves, where they will, about their recovery. And most people speak about their recoveries in the sanctuary of meeting rooms and in private conversations to assure anonymity. And anonymity takes on two elements. First, to protect a person whilst they're learning how to be sober and open and honest and willing to approach each day anew. And anonymity has another understanding, that we're all the same size, and that each voice we hear in AA has the same equal value. So whether one is a newcomer and very smart, or a newcomer and a bit pickled like I was, it doesn't matter. We have a story to share, and it's sharing experience, strength and hope which counts. So I have here a couple of paragraphs which are read out at the beginning of every meeting of AA. It's what you see is what you get, good and bad, warts and all in fellowship. It's an illustration of life in a meeting about what's going on for people and how they're staying sober. So here we go. This is what is called the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And that's it. Help each other to achieve sobriety one day at a time. And the only joining condition, if it is a condition at all, is a desire to stop drinking. It doesn't say stop drinking, it's a desire to stop drinking. And on most of my videos this year, in fact all of them, I've covered the daily reflections, which is a 1 page a day meditation to keep us in mind of what is keeping us on track, living life as it is, life on life's terms. And for December, in the daily reflections, it's all about the 12th step of action for individuals and the 12th tradition, which is about fellowship. So there are two aspects to recovery. 12 steps of action for an individual to learn about and then put into practice. Principles of living, and I'll talk about those in a moment, but I want to cover the daily reflection first. And one of the things I found out recently, because I don't know why, but YouTube allows me more time to share, and I'm going to take a different tack and direction next year. But for today, December the 15th, in the daily reflections it says this: doing anything to help. Offer him, the alcoholic, friendship and fellowship. And what that means is we reach out, there's a saying, it's the, what do we call it? It's the pledge, yes. Must be tired this morning. The AA pledge. I am responsible when anyone anywhere reaches out for help. I want the hand of AA always to be there, and for that I am responsible, and it need to be done responsibly. So friendship and fellowship is what it is. It's nothing more, unconditional. Tell him that if he wants to get well, you will do anything to help. As best we can, we do anything to help. It doesn't mean it's on the emotional and spiritual level. Most of us are not that wealthy, so if you're looking for money, you won't find it here. And I say that in jest because, recovery is not about money, but we do need to cover our basic needs, and somehow we try and sort through those elements with a person coming into fellowship if that's part of the problem. And it's normally government help. I remember how attracted I was to the two men from AA who 12th stepped me. They said I could have what they had with no conditions attached, that all I had to do was make my own decision to join them on the pathway to recovery. When I started convincing a newcomer to do things my way, I forgot how helpful those two men were to me in their open-minded generosity. So it's not about my way or the highway. In recovery it's about your way and the highway, making the best of the highway you have with your resources. And and part of the resource package, if you like, is the toolkit of AA, 12 steps for me to do, and 12 traditions which hold the fellowship together, so we're all equal, no one's bigger or smaller than anybody else. And I'm searching for a book, this one, because in this one, the 12 steps and 12 traditions, this is my big copy. I have my little blue one for handiness, and I've got my falling apart and held together with rubber band version, because I've read it so many times when I've been travelling around, and also to different meetings, because the 12 and 12 steps, 12 traditions are key to personal survival and fellowship survival. And in the 12th step in this book, which is a fairly hefty chapter because it's all about sharing the message. It covers something which is really important to me, which is the summary of the 12 steps. And it goes like this. Alcoholics Anonymous's manner of making ready to receive this gift lies in the practice of the 12 steps in our program. That's our basic toolkit. So let's consider briefly what we have been trying to do up to this point. Step 1 showed us an amazing paradox. We found that we were totally unable to be rid of the alcohol obsession until we first admitted that we were powerless over it. In step 2, we saw that since we could not restore ourselves to sanity, some higher power must necessarily do so if we were to survive. And what I found is, and this is just me and my opinion, no one else's, you need to hear the many voices in AA to make your own opinion up. Some higher power must necessarily do so if we were to survive, and my higher power is the many voices within the meetings of the fellowship, because they have the wisdom, experience, strength and hope of making life work. And I wondered about God a lot, and still do, but it's no point in thinking about it. It's actually applying something practical in terms of God or a higher power in your life. So the wisdom of others is great, and I came to the conclusion that truth, love and wisdom is it. Not my personal belief in truth, or the truth I think I know. It's the absolute truth of what's going on. Love and wisdom, which is often learned from others. Consequently, in step 3, we turned our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So, God as we understood him really is God as you understand, as a unique, authentic person, and that's also about our unique, authentic experience of life, which either favours atheist, agnostic or believer, and that's the way it is. We can't actually undo life experience in order to make it fit a framework of somebody else's belief. So it's what you come to believe which is really important. And I found that truth, love and wisdom as an understanding of what's connected to good conscience works for me greatly, and some call it God, and that's fine. You know, if we get stuck in words and debating things, we stop. We start thinking rather than thinking rather than doing. Anyway, for the time being, we who were atheist or agnostic discovered that our own group, or AA as a whole, or anybody with a bit of wisdom on the planet, would suffice as a higher power. Then, beginning with step 4, we commenced to search out the things in ourselves which have brought us to physical, moral and spiritual bankruptcy. In other words, the inability to cope with anything except drinking more and more and more, drinking ourselves to death. Having made the moral inventory, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory, and then at step 5 we decided that an inventory taken alone wouldn't be enough. We knew we would have to quit the deadly business of living alone with our conflicts. In other words, secrets keep us sick. And in honesty, confide these to God, truth, love and wisdom in my case, and another human being. In other words, it's not about me hiding the truth or the inventory of how it's been. It's about me sharing what I need to do next. At step 6, many of us balked for the practical reason that we did not wish to have all our defects of character removed, because we still loved some of them too much. That is, thinking we're in charge, powerful when we're not, thinking that we know better, judging others, and fear as well. You know, we can get hooked on fear, so we cover up, putting on a brave face so nobody can see the inside of us, and a very brittle ego. So if you punctured my ego, I'd fall to pieces and retaliate with anger and resentment. Well, I could do that, but those are defects of character, extremes of behaviour outside moderation. So step 6, we can hold on to things, and then in step 7, yet we knew we had to make a settlement with the fundamental principle of step 6, which is let go those things which are harmful to us. So we decided that while we still had some flaws of character that we could not relinquish, we ought nevertheless to quit our stubborn, rebellious hanging on to them. And there you are, stubbornness and rebelliousness, and more defects, which I really enjoyed because I thought I was right, and I wasn't. We said to ourselves, this I cannot do today, but perhaps I can stop crying out, no, never. Then in step 7, we humbly ask God, or in good conscience, to remove our shortcomings. And shortcomings is not enough of something, for me, such as he could or would under the conditions of the day we asked. So in other words, oh God, on Friday I've got to go see my doctor. I don't want to go because I don't want to hear the truth, but I am going and I want to hear the truth so I can do something about it. So it's faith, courage and confidence I need more of. I'm short on those, faith, courage and confidence, if I let my head go into thinking mode that it'll be alright if I just don't do anything. Yeah. In step 8, we continued our house cleaning, for we saw that we were not only in conflict with ourselves, but also with people and situations in the world in which we lived. And step 8 is making a list of people we have harmed and being willing to make amends. We had to begin to make our peace, and so we listed the people we had harmed and became willing to set things right. We followed this up in step 9 by making direct amends to those concerned, except when it would injure them or other people. So in other words, it's not going out and standing on a soapbox outside somebody's house and shouting, I'm so sorry. It's about being conscious of what we did in the past and making restitution as is possible without doing harm to them or other people. And sometimes it means also not doing harm to ourselves or family. And that's hard to understand as well until you start doing it. At step 10 we have begun to get the basis for a daily living, and we keenly realised that we would need to continue taking personal inventory. Then when we were wrong we ought to admit it promptly. So step 10 is an ongoing situation, what's worked and what hasn't worked. In step 11 we saw that if a higher power had restored us to sanity and had enabled us to live with some peace of mind in a sorely troubled world, then such a higher power was worth knowing better by as direct contact as possible. So in other words, if we have a higher power, and my higher power is the wisdom of others, which I see and hear in the rooms of AA, plus society, plus family, plus professionals, I'm up for it. I listen and get wisdom from others. And if it's good conscience that it informs, maybe my good conscience will improve. And if it's a higher power than that, for me, truth, love and wisdom is God. The more I am in conscious contact and reflect and meditate on truth, love and wisdom, and then always in the action, it's the action which counts, then the day is on track. And these are not lengthy meditations. Everything is done in moderation. The persistent use of meditation and prayer, we found, did open the channel so that where there had been a trickle, now there was a river which led to sure power and safe guidance from God, as we were increasingly better able to understand Him. So, the vessel which brings the experience, strength and hope is often right next to us in a meeting of AA, or even right next to us on the bus, if we are able to hear it above the noise in our own heads. So, practicing these steps, we had a spiritual awakening about which finally there was no question. Looking at those who were only beginning and still doubted themselves, the rest of us were able to see the change setting in. From a great number of such experiences, we would predict that the doubter who still claimed that he hadn't got the spiritual angle, which is living in the truth of now, and who still considered his well-loved AA group the higher power, would presently love God and call Him by name. Well, I haven't got there yet, have I? But whether I'm an atheist, agnostic, or a believer in God, for me it comes down to very practical measures of listening, meditating and reflecting on what is good, not only for me, but for the people around me as well. And that's how it works for me. But again, it's the many voices in AA which count. So I'm stopping now, as I've gone on a long time. The serenity prayer, which helps me in any moment to God or good conscience, the God of your understanding as you come to believe, or simply good conscience, or your higher power. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, for me, is just for today.